This is going to be the raw edited interview with James Smiley. So it starts in about, I guess, 10 minutes. It is starting. It is a raw, unedited interview with James Smiley. So, what's up there, Facebook? Hope you guys are having a great day. Today's actually my birthday, so I'm turning 20. No, I'm turning. Yeah, my birthday's over technically. Well, I mean, that's the funny thing. My birthday's not actually over yet, so it's totally relative. My birthday's totally relative. So in some parts of the world, my birthday's over. In other parts of the world, it's still my birthday. It's also my wife's birthday, Ankita. We share the same birthday, so we have the exact same birthday, which is pretty cool because we're soulmates. We're soulmates born on the same day, just in different years. But anyways, I hope you guys are having a great day. Today, I'm actually interviewing somebody. It's James Smiley. He's one of my friends, and he's one of my mentors, I guess. He's one of the founders of my mentor lab that I'm actually a part of. So he has been labeled, I guess, recognized as one of the most innovative and in-demand entrepreneurs under 40. So I've been following him for a while, watching his actual content. So today we're just having an interview with him, and part of the reason I'm doing that interview is really for my social selling course, so my students can actually understand the power of leverage. And we talked about this a little bit before already. And I think James is good at this particular topic and understanding leverage and being able to talk about leverage and how leverage itself can help you go a lot farther. And I think that's something that us as people and us as entrepreneurs really we tend to forget sometimes, and we tend to not look out for that leverage because we're thinking, even I know I do it all the time, thinking that I'm here in this world alone and I've got to just do everything all by myself, and I don't go in and leverage the things that I have, like relationships. And that's right, Sean, I'm actually not a marketer, so this is how much of a marketer I am not, that I actually have t-shirts made that say I'm not actually a marketer, because I'm not. So I'm actually a software engineer. Anyways, thank you guys for coming. I'm actually still waiting on James. He's a little bit late right now, which is no big deal. We're supposed to start. Let's see when we're actually supposed to start. We're supposed to start actually 6 minutes ago. We're supposed to start, but he just messaged me and said that he's grabbing some coffee for our interview. So I have quite a few questions that people have asked me to actually ask James during this interview. So if you guys have any questions, for example, that you would like me to ask James during this interview, just feel free to actually leave those questions. If not, I have a whole list of questions already that people have actually asked. So this is James Smiley right here. I actually did a little, I was looking at him online, and he shows up first on LinkedIn, and he also shows up first on Google. So he shows up first in both of these places. I've been in my mentor lab with him and Colton, and now JR is in there as well. I guess for a couple months, and it's been a great experience. I think one of the big things that I struggle with, just like everybody else, is not being able to actually find enough other people out there in the world that are kind of to some extent doing the same thing that I'm trying to do. Maybe they're trying to do their own thing, obviously completely different than me and what I'm doing, but it's somewhat similar. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're either an entrepreneur or you're not, I think. And if you are an entrepreneur, I think you probably yourself have experienced these frustrations where sometimes you feel like you're all alone, or you just don't have enough other people that are kind of in the same mindset that you're in. And you're looking out at your peers and your family and your friends and your loved ones, and just the direct network that you yourself are connected with. And sometimes you probably look, at least I do, you look and you're like, you know what, who are these people, and what are their real goals and ambitions, and are, like, do I really want to associate myself with them, or like, are they helping me are they helping me get any farther to where I'm actually wanting to go and where I'm trying to go. So I think my mentor lab for me, one of the great things that it's done for me is to be able to actually present myself and have myself there with other entrepreneurs, obviously, and other people who I think the mindset of an entrepreneur, and I say this because I want to say I've always been an entrepreneur, but I say this because I've worked a 9-to-5 job and I've worked for somebody else. I've had that whole mentality for some time that, I'm just going to go to work and I'm going to do what those people pay me to. And, the innovation and the thoughts that I come up with are going to be really, really not that big and not that broad. I'm just going to go there. They're going to tell me to do this and this. I'm going to need to do this, this, and this. And I'm just going to kind of do this stuff for them. And I'm going to give them my time and my brain power. And in essence, I'm going to give them me. I'm going to just be like, okay, hey, here's me. I'm selling myself to you for some time. Maybe not for eternity, but at least for some time. Right now, I'm selling myself to you. And that never really satisfied me, like I always sat in question and was always like, why am I actually doing this? Probably the same way that I'm questioning right now, like, James, how long does it actually take you to make a cup of coffee, James? Is it like what type of coffee do you drink? Like, are you crushing the beans right now as I'm waiting for you to get your coffee? Are you literally there like, God damn, I gotta be there meeting with John, you're just crushing those beans? It doesn't take me very long to make a cup of coffee because I don't actually make my coffee. So somebody else comes in and makes my coffee for me, or my tea whenever I want it. I just tell them like, hey, could you make this for me? And then they just go make it. And it doesn't take that long. It just takes a couple minutes for them. So like I said, it's my birthday today. It's over technically because it's 12:40 where I'm at. So it's 40 minutes into the next day, and it's been a relatively good day. I've been finding myself going out and thinking about things that I often think about myself, and I often wonder myself, which is a very basic question I think that a lot of people really just ignore in this world. And there's so much, and this is one of the questions that we'll ask James if he ever comes and makes it to our interview where he's a guest speaker. Like, how do you break through all the noise? And there's so much noise out there, right? There's all these different people. Everybody's just doing their own little thing and wanting their own little results. And who am I amongst all of that? Like, who am I in this world as a conscious being? And what is it that I'm actually really doing that is significant? And what am I actually doing that matters? And I find myself questioning all the time that, and just looking at what I do and what I'm about and the way that I think and the way that I behave and what that actually matters. I'm not sure if it does. And thanks for the birthday wishes, Robbie and Darius. Like I said, it's been a relatively good birthday. I don't really celebrate my birthday. This is something I was thinking about with my engineers earlier today, because it's so weird to think about our birthdays, to think that what's happening is we've completed another year of time, which is a complete arbitrage and a complete arbitrary definition of nothingness, really. Like, whoop-de-doo, I've created another cycle of the rock that for some reason I happen to be consciously aware on, that's spinning around a star. It's made a full rotation around that star, and great. It's so weird, really. It's so weird, really, sometimes to be a conscious being and just be here consciously. I see James here, so I'm going to go ahead and promote him. I'm going to go ahead and promote James Smiley to a panelist. And like I said, James is my head mentor at my mentor lab. What's going on, James? I can't hear you, buddy. Oh, maybe that's my fault. Let me see. Shouldn't be my fault. Are you there? Can you hear me? I for sure cannot hear you. Facebook, can you hear James? James can hear me. Facebook, can you hear James? I totally can't hear you, James. He's not audible. Facebook, you guys hear James? Did you guys hear James? I can't hear him. Robbie, you can't hear James on Facebook. He's inaudible. He's got that expensive Blue Yeti mic, I think is what he's got.
How about now?
Yeah, you're audible now for sure.
Okay. I think
it's not real loud. It's somewhat low. Like your voice is still somewhat low.
Yeah, let me check my.
Can you guys hear him just fine? I hear him really, really low.
Mic check 1 2. How about now?
I think maybe it's my speakers. I think maybe I'm just coming out of the wrong speakers myself.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
I can hear you. It sounds like it's coming out of the wrong spot for me. Hey Paul, what about you? Can you hear? Hey, Robbie says they can hear you now. Well, I can't hear you so great, but like I said, it's probably my fault. Let's try it some more. I probably just have my speakers all screwed up. So how you doing today, James?
Doing good, man. Are we live in your group right now?
Oh, you know what? I think you're coming out of my rift. Let's try that again. I think you're coming out of my rift right now.
What is going on? What is going on?
That's the problem, James. You're coming out of my rift right now. So like the only way I can hear you is from my speakers here. Hold on. What about now? Let's see now. Oh my God, that's so much better. You're literally coming out of my VR right now.
Bam, bam, bam.
Sorry about that. So how you doing?
Good, man.
You're one of the most innovative and in-demand entrepreneurs under 40 years old. How old are you actually, James?
I'm 39, baby. 39.
When's your birthday?
March 31st.
So my birthday's today, James. It's over for me, but where you're at, it's still going on right now. My
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
So I know a lot about you, James. I mean, not a whole lot. I've been checking you out on the internet. I see you ranked #1 for James Smiley on LinkedIn. You ranked #1 for James Smiley on Google. When I did a search on Facebook, you're obviously going to rank #1 because we're friends on Facebook. So I see a lot of information about you on the internet, and I know you obviously because like I've been telling people, you're my mentor, my mentor lab. But I'm curious as to who you would not so much what you've done, and I want to talk about some of the stuff that you've done, and we got a lot of different questions that people want to ask you. But I'd love to know from you, like who are you? Because I found myself with my employees today kind of questioning deep down inside, not so much what I'm about and what I do, but who I really am. So I'd love to get your take on that. Like who are you?
That's a good one. I like that question. So, man, I would say like I'm just a normal dude who, like, I'm as normal as anyone you'd ever meet. My dad literally like raised me. My dad didn't give me like a lot of like really good wisdom advice, but my dad, one of the things he told me that really stuck with me was, he's like, man, until you like wake up in the morning and there's someone else like helping you put your pants on and like pouring your milk, basically like you got a butler. He's like, you really haven't made it. So just go to work and work really hard. He's like, I don't care how much money you have or what do you think. He's like, he's like, you're not like on top. Like you're not like Warren Buffett or something, And so, but even I think when you get there, it's like, you're still a human being. You know what I mean? So I feel like ultimately, man, the way I would answer that is, I believe that that I was put on earth for a reason. I was a really good, sperm swimmer. I beat like 14 million others in the race. And my word is I beat him with the backstroke, like I wasn't even trying. No, I'm kidding. But you think about that, like people are pretty unique, every person. And so, the reason I say like, I think I'm as normal as anyone else, cause I'm just as unique as you, or anyone else listening. And, I think on the flip side of that, like life is, I think is about the decisions you make and, how you want to kind of script your life or, I was just talking to somebody about, just a second ago about, some people who, they're like, everyone has some misfortune, right? Like something that goes wrong or went wrong. Some people are really, really set back, from the beginning. But it's really like how you deal with it, And so we were talking about somebody that we know who, is super, super talented, but blames everybody for everything. And the thing is like the person's actually right. Like the person's set back in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, like no one really, I don't know how to say this right, but no one really cares, definitely like business, the market, your competition, no one cares about my sob story. I mean, just to be real, like
you might,
huh?
I said you might,
yeah.
And a very small handful of people you may perceive that they care about, but that's just in your own thoughts. But at the end of the day, no one cares about anything really but themselves, and that doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah. And so like like I've had some crazy setbacks, like my stuff that I don't talk about too much, but like I lost my oldest son in 2015, and that was actually like the pivotal thing that changed a lot for me. Was I was like, after I like recovered from that, I was like, okay, man, like I'm 35. I was like, man, I'm going to be 40 in 5 years. Like, and 5 years goes by fast, and I was like, I want to be like set in a different way and be able to do different things in my 40s and 50s. And so I was just like, man, what I'm doing right now, like working with these big companies, it's not me. It's not where I'm from. It's not, I don't like the politics. I don't like that these companies were not really about like efficiencies. They're more about like their own personal, career advancement. And ultimately that's what I'm really hired to do, is help them get their next promotion, and, so, I mean, I just wasn't, I mean, it was good money and, it was good recognition, but it wasn't like ultimately who I wanted to be, so, but man, to be completely real, John, like to answer that question even further, to be honest, man, I don't really know who the hell I am.
That's a great answer. Me neither. Me fucking neither. I don't know who I am or who you are or who anybody is.
Yeah, I'm fucking learning that shit every day.
I'm curious, James. I don't want to pry or anything. There's a lot of questions for you, and I really want to get briefly over a real brief of all the shit that you've done that could just give you so much credibility, so that there's some perspective there. But before I do that, and it's just because you mentioned it, and like I said, if you don't want to talk about it, it's totally fine. But the way I am, it just kind of intrigues me. So you're working, from what I understand of you, and you can correct me as I go, but from what I understand of you, you're a big shot. You're a relative big shot in a lot of circles, and you've done a lot. You've made, as far as, if we say that success is equal to money and how much money that you're able to make, you've done a lot of that, right? So you're out there working for businesses, Fortune 100 and Fortune 500. You're helping them actually grow and make more sales, and helping them really, dominate their little industry and niches. And it seems like, as you're doing this, is this when your oldest son, he passed away?
Yeah. So my oldest son, he was born in 2008. I was 28 years old. He was born with a really, really serious heart condition. He basically had half of a heart. And so, he lived like the first 5 years. It was really tough for the first 6 to 10 months. Really tough. He's in the hospital pretty much the whole time. But then from about 1 to 5, he was pretty much a normal kid. Like, he was super energetic. I mean, me and him, we built a million memories, man. And he was my literal sidekick. Like, we were so tight, he would literally probably be sitting in that chair right now. Like, that's how tight we were. From, 2009 to 2013, it was like, if I went to a business meeting, if I could take him, I would take him. I mean, sometimes he would sit in the lobby, but a lot of times he would just sit on the floor in a big boardroom. Like, I remember like AT&T and Motorola big corporate negotiation. He's sitting right there on the floor. These guys are like, dude, what's a kid doing in here? I'm like, that's my son. And they're like, dude, you can't have no children in here. And I'm like, okay, well then I'm gone. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah. And then I'd explain to him, like, he really wants to be around me. Chances are he's probably not going to live that long. I don't know, but that's what statistically, he's not going to live that long. And man, I just want to spend every moment I can mentoring this kid and showing him what the world's like, And so, yeah, like it really, like I spent 160 nights in the hospital 162 or something like that, nights in the hospital with him over his life. So when he was 5, he actually had a heart attack in my house and he passed away. But believe it or not, like 10 minutes later, I was able to revive him through CPR, and which was like a miracle of miracles. By the way, I don't really ever share this, but you're asking, so you're going to get it.
This is why I'm asking. Okay, you have other kids as well. You have other kids.
Yeah. So now I have 4 other kids.
were any of them alive when this is going on?
No. Well, his last 2 years, we started having some more kids. Yeah.
But they're not where they really consciously really have that much memory.
Yeah. They really don't remember him that much. Yeah. My oldest daughter right now, she's 6 and she remembers him a little bit. But, so when I revived him through, if anybody here knows anything about being medically, no heartbeat, and then you come back to life, you're pretty much going to have serious brain damage because you're not going to have like oxygen in your brain for minutes, and which is like seconds can kill you, like let alone minutes. So long story short, man, he became of like within like a 7-week period. I was at the hospital with him, and I mean, dude, it was the most heart-wrenching thing I've ever been through, where he was talking, laughing, and then all of a sudden every day he would lose like his speech, his hand movement, and he completely shriveled up every day. So it was like seeing him die. It was like he completely like did the whole thing, like shriveled up to a total vegetable, and to where like he couldn't talk, he couldn't move, and the doctor said he can't, his brain is dead, he's just alive, breathing, but sooner or later, like his brain will not be able to tell his body to breathe. So they wanted to send him to like a medical home, and I was like, he's going to my home, he ain't going to no other home. And so through, long story short, I took him home, and dude, I've never shared this on the internet, by the way, but I took him home, and long story short, man, we had hospice, and we had, I mean, dude, like they think your son's going to die when they give you a freaking bottle of morphine this big for a 5-year-old kid. Like, I mean, he's supposed to get like a little teeny bit, but they give you like a wide bottle. It looks like, Mickey's Ice with the wide bottle, wide mouth. I'm like, what, he's supposed to just guzzle that? Like, like they're basically just like, look, man, just try to make him not in pain and just, basically just manage him out until he's gone. And so long story short, dude, you won't believe this, but I wouldn't believe, it'd be hard to believe if I heard it, but within 2 years, he was walking. So people were flying in from like all different kinds of hospitals to see him. And it was like a miracle, man. When he would go to Children's Hospital for a checkup, like all the nurses and doctors, there would be nurses and doctors who would come in, and they would just like rotate in just because they wanted to see, they had heard his story. They just wanted to see him. And so, and they would like listen to his heart with the little thing, and they're just like, dude, they're like, dude, I don't know how this kid's alive. Like, I ain't never heard a heart murmur like that. And so he started walking again. He could feed himself, and all this stuff is on my Facebook page, by the way. If you guys look back like 2013, 14, 15, 2010, 11. And so, but yeah, man, in 2015, I went in to check on him one morning. He was gone. So, so he had, he made it 7 years, and, and it was a journey, man. It was like a 7-year, like, when I look back on that, man, it was just like, it was kind of like a big dream, like I was just like, what just happened? And yet, like, the crazy thing was, like, I was able to, like, build this business, keep our family together, and, like,
that's what I'm so curious about.
Keep him alive, What's up?
So that's why I'm curious, and I really appreciate you sharing this. It takes a whole lot to be able to talk about this. And I've got a really weird outlook on death. I'm just like, fuck death, like, for me to care, like, for me to be like, okay, this person's dead, and for me to grieve and feel sorrow about that is like, I don't even know what's going on. That's my own selfishness, right? I'm missing that person. That person, I mean, I have no idea about the state of that person anymore. But from internally, it fucks us up. So I'm curious, like, so you're out there, you're helping these companies, these businesses with sales. When you're doing consulting, you're helping them just at the end of the day get more sales and make more revenue.
Yeah. So initially, around 2000, like in the late 2000s. So I had stopped working with Telenav, the company we IPO'd. I think it was around 2006, and then we IPO'd around the IPO started in 2008, and I think it finished in 2009, if I remember right. It takes a while to actually IPO. And so, like, I left because I had gotten into basically, I was just to be honest, man, I was 26. I was making a lot of money. I was super, super successful, especially coming from my kind of hood, like, I was super successful. And I was just way over arrogant, dude. Like, man, I was an asshole. I remember going to like restaurants, and like a waiter was having a bad day, and I just treat her bad, report her to her boss, try to get her fired, and I was always just like, yeah, but so money, young, no regulation, no mentorship from like somebody close to me. I mean, I was going to a lot of like Tony Robbins events and a lot of the things that were helping me learn, which is how I kind of like secretly learned about all this stuff. But no one like close, who could speak into my life and be like, dude, you need to chill the hell out, man. And so, but yeah, like, but really, so when Telenav started, when I left Telenav, then I started consulting actually for competitors, because I blown up one company to like 350 million. So all the other GPS, like TomTom, MapQuest, there's a lot of like little companies that I don't even think they exist anymore. There's one called Zora, ZOXA. There's a whole bunch of them that they basically contracted me for. There's one called GearWorks that contracted me out of Minnesota. Like, so they just contracted me for little contracts. Basically, say, hey, dude, let's hire this dude, pay him a lot of money, and he'll tell us like how to blow up our company too. And so but once the IPO happened, then I kind of like, once 2008 hit, like that's also when like Facebook and all this other stuff was going on. Twitter started coming out, and there was like MySpace and Friendster and stuff like a year or two before, but it wasn't big. But when I would go to the, I was speaking at a lot of tech conferences, and so I had spoke with Gary Vaynerchuk. I spoke with a lot of other like big CEOs, and like, I remember everyone saying, like, the future is going to be in what's called not just media, but social media. And I remember like there was this thing called Web 2.0, like back in the 2000s, where it was like Web 2.0 was like the evolution of the internet, where like now, like you could, instead of just using the internet to like access information, right? Like a server being able for me to like type in and say, okay, I want to know a database record of some customer of mine, right? Like that's just how the internet was. It was like this amazing network of servers, and you could like, it was like a network of true information, right? So I could like search, Netscape or Yahoo or something, right? And get some data off a server. Well, Web 2.0 is this thought that like now people would go to the internet to actually connect with a person. So there were these like chat rooms. This was the first social media. There was actually chat rooms. Anybody who's like around 35, 45 is going to know what I'm talking about. Like you would go to the library and literally like wait 2 hours to get a computer so that you could get into a chat room, and you would just sit there and chat with people who were like all over the world. You know who they were. And like, but so all of a sudden, like people started realizing like people want to get on the internet to talk to other people, not just to say like, how do, like I got a dog, like, how do I train a dog? And some server sends me back information, like, but they wanted to actually like interact. And so that led to Web 2.0, which became social media. Once these companies started harnessing it, social media was like, okay, now that you have these platforms where everyone would congregate, at the end of the day, businesses were like, dude, this is where our customers are. You know what I mean? This is like, before that, like you had to go to like a huge tech conference that had 20,000 of your customers at it or 5,000 of your customers at it. And then you try to market and speak and have wine and dine and have little masterminds and all this stuff. But now you can do it on the internet. And so that was just like a shock, and everyone, I remember sitting in this breakout session. We were in Vegas at the Venetian, and we were at CES, and I remember CES or CTIA, and I remember sitting in this breakout with like 300-400 people in it, and I remember this guy talking, and he was like, every company in the world over the next 10 years is going to spend an immense amount of money to figure out how to reach their customers on social media. It doesn't matter. The biggest companies in the world will be social media driven companies. And this was like when it was kind of a joke, you know what I mean? Like it was laughable, and so I took a risk and just said, I've got to transition from before, like I was really in like what's called like mobile technology, like mobile apps and stuff. And I was kind of like, I'd go to conferences to speak about mobile apps, really is what I was talking about. I was like, mobile is going to be the future and everyone's going to be using their phone and mobile. And I was known as like the mobile everything kid. Right. But then I realized like the leverage was going to move to social, and you would get more leverage of your time if you worked in social. And so, yeah, I made that jump in like 2008, 2009, and started like trying to focus on like, how do I help companies learn about social media and how to use social media? And really it wasn't just social media. Then it was just anything digital. So then I found out like the easiest thing to do, believe it or not, was to teach them how to use their email list. So you'd be surprised like how many startups that have $40 million of funding that don't use their email list.
Wow, you'd be surprised how many businesses today. I mean,
today, yeah.
They don't have an email list. They don't even know who their customers are. They have no information. They're just like, well, sometimes they come by myself. I don't know who.
Yeah, like you talk about a total like blue ocean. Like I know like my buddy Steve Larson talks about creating your own blue ocean, and Russell talks about that. Like I feel like they've got to say like create your own blue ocean, because they're really in like a completely red ocean, right? Of like internet marketers and like, internet coaches, but like there's blue oceans that have literally no clue. Like you could just take .com Secrets book and go teach that, and you would be the biggest genius in that whole industry. You know what I mean? So like I've taught people before in our coaching, like, look, man, just look up like venture capital firms, figure out who they're investing into, because there'll be press releases and things like that where so-and-so got 3 million, so-and-so got 20 million, so-and-so got 4 million, so-and-so got $500,000. And you need to contact those companies and tell them you can get the lowest cost client acquisition possible by using the internet. And these companies they will consult you. I mean, because number one, they're going to have the money. They just got $1 million or whatever. So them carving you out 50 grand or 200 grand is nothing. And by the way, they're also looking to spend that money. That's the thing that people don't realize about venture capital is they're looking to spend it. Because if they don't spend it within a certain time, a lot of times they lose it, or they've got to hit certain metrics. So like spending it is the best thing they can do. When we were starting Telenav, we raised 4 rounds. We raised 133 million, and when we would get like 30 million, like it was hard to spend it. Like it was hard to find places to spend the money. You know, like so you have to understand, like people when they get those kind of rounds of funding, they're now on a spending spree. You know, like ClickFunnels right now, they've banked a lot of cash, and you can tell because when they start having a bunch of job postings, and when they, you know, are talking about like, hey, we were opening new offices, that tells you they're spending. They have to spend some cash. You know, so anyway, yeah, they're like it is ridiculous how many companies out there. You know, I was looking at a company the other day, and like they do something like Basecamp or like Trello. They have their own version of that. They got $3 million of funding, and a friend of a friend knows the CEO, and they were seeing if I wanted to talk to him. I was like, no, I'm not really in that game anymore. But I was like, this CEO is totally lost, completely lost. Like he's taking his project management software and trying to sell it to businesses and like sales team. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? If this guy literally just did a freemium model where like, so this is like what Russell and Steve, that they do like offer development. Like if you just took what Steve teaches and just took offer development to a company like this, they pay you 100 grand, 200 grand easily, and you wouldn't work that hard. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't work that hard at all. Like, and you know, you could do offer development for them and help them build a webinar or something, you know, and drive traffic to it. Like, so it's a really good space to be in if you just need to make money. What I didn't like about it though was like the bigger companies you start, because like I always wanted to see like, okay, how big of a company can I work for, right? So then I got to like, we started Boost Mobile. And we took that to 4.4 million subscribers. And then I was like, okay, let's go do something bigger, you know? And then finally, like I got in with AT&T and Facebook and Amazon but then I realized like, it doesn't matter. Like the bigger companies, it was just more politics, you know? And I was just like, it seems really cool. And it was cool to have on your resume, but it was just a lot of politics. So, and to be like there was a few, like there was a guy at AT&T, there's this executive named Randall. He's probably one of the people I look up to the most. Like there was a couple people through that whole time that I was like, man, I would die to work for this person. I literally would die to work for that person. But other than that, 99% of the people, I'm like, these people are absolutely waste of their breath at work. Like they are 100% about politics. They're 100% about themselves. They're literally just politically navigating political waters for themselves, you know? And I was like, I was brought in to help them achieve their political goal, you know? And I don't know, for some reason, like that just never sat well with me. But you know, when you're first starting out and making money, like you don't really think about that, and you don't really care, right? You just want to make some money, you know? So
I'm curious, you're there, you're doing this consulting. I hate to go back to this, but I'm just really, it kind of coincides with one of these questions. So one of these questions actually came from Christelle. And her question is, you know, how do you keep going in a world full of negative noise? And because of that question, not really just because of that question, also I'm curious, and I think it could shed a lot of insight, because like here you are in your life, and you're just you don't even know who you are. Apparently, you don't even know what you are or who you are, and you're just out there in this life. And for some reason, you're just like, okay, I want money to buy this, and this, and have this and this. For some odd reason, you got a family, you got a wife, you got a kid. You're out there helping. You're out there helping these businesses, and you don't really give a fuck about that. You're just like, to some extent you have some disdain even on what they're doing. You want to help them for your own gain, to be like, okay, yeah, I did this. But you really even hate like the ideal, that concept of this big political business. And while they're in your ear, like, James, we need this, we want this, how do we get this? And you're trying to help them. At the same time, you're coming home, you're seeing your kid. You're understanding that in this, like, your flesh and blood, this thing that you have right here, to some extent, that you've created, is like in your life, that's the loudest noise, right? And that's why I want to ask you about this, because that's like the death of a loved one, especially your child. Not everybody has kids, I have kids. Unfortunately, I don't get to see them and stuff like I want to, but I mean, that I think that's a much better question. Like, I think if you can deal with that, right? Like, that's why I want to know, like, how are you doing this? You're consciously knowing, okay, hey, my kid's dying. I don't know when this is going to be gone, but at the same time, you have all these people, and they're expecting you to perform and do something that, whenever you look at that, you outweigh it. You're like, okay, that is nothing. That means nothing at all. Shut the fuck up with that shit. I got a real problem over here. Like, so how do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I think, so one thing is, like, I grew up around a lot of negativity, like there were family members. I don't really want to call anyone out or anything, but there were really close family members who, like, were just like, every word out of their mouth is negative. Right. And so like, and then I had friends like that. And so, like, I just realized, like, I didn't like that when I was a kid. And I was just like, I don't want to live around that stuff. Like, I don't want to live around like negativity. And one, like, I remember having this thought when I was about 18 or 19, because I grew up like in a pretty much my most impressionable years of growing up when I was young were in like mostly black neighborhoods. And so I remember, and I love like those communities and stuff still, but like, I remember there was just like a lot of hostility, like everyone wanted to fight each other. Everyone was talking shit to each other. If you were doing something, like, it wasn't just like going to a party and like, I remember going to like some of my like Caucasian friends parties. And I'm like, dude, like, y'all just come to a party, just hang out. Like, everyone's just cool. Like, going to fucking gang party is like a whole nother thing, right? You're like, you don't know who's going to shoot who or stab who, or there definitely going to be fights. It's just hostility, And I was just like, man, like, I was just like, I don't want to live around hostility, and I'll tell you this for everyone, like, life is stressful enough with your own stuff. It is stressful enough. You don't need someone else's drama. You don't need, you know what I mean? Like, it is just stressful enough just to be alive. Okay. Like, just to deal with your own thoughts and your own, stuff you want to accomplish. Like, you don't have, like, to add other stuff in is a waste of breath, man. And so, so that's one thing I think, like, I was really cognizant of is, like, people would, like, I remember family members. I remember other people like, man, why don't you hang out? Why don't you come to this? Why don't you go? And I didn't really say anything, but I'm just like, dude, I just don't want to be around the drama. You know what I mean? I don't want to go to a party, family party or this or whatever. And like, everyone's talking crap about each other. It's like, who's going to talk crap about who this week? You know what I mean? Like, and next week it's someone else. And the next week it's like, this is what some people do to entertain themselves through life. You know what I mean? To make themselves feel significant, to feel a sense of purpose, is like, they've got to create this drama so that, like, they've got something suspenseful to talk about. And I was just like, dude, this is like stuff that I did in junior high. These people are 50 years old doing it. And I don't know why. I was a kid and I was like, that's just stupid. I don't want to live my life like that. So I really cut those people out of my life, and still being like graceful to them. I wasn't like trying to say, hey, I'm better than you, but I just limited exposure to them. And then also, I learned from Tony Robbins, and like, according to like my personal, like my personal faith is like standard, like Christian faith. So like, according to that, and like some of the stuff I learned from Tony Robbins, like I learned about like speaking life over myself, and like the power of like saying something verbally. And then that eventually became what people now call like NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And so like, but So I think like NLP is a big thing as well. Something I still do to this day, is like when I'm going through something tough, like you've got to verbally say things that of where you want to go and who you want to be. So like telling yourself verbally, even if you're like just driving in the car or whatever, or just walking around the house and saying like, I'm going to make it through this, or, I'm going to be a great entrepreneur, or I'm going to be a great dad, or I'm going to be a great role model, or I'm going to be, because what scientists have basically figured out with that whole NLP thing is that like the universe or God or whatever you want to say created your brain smart enough. Like your brain is the most intelligent thing on the whole planet, in the whole universe. Like there's nothing that we know of more intelligent than a human brain. And your brain is more intelligent than we've ever thought, because it is so smart. It will actually try to do what you say. So if you say like, so this was one of the things I told all these doctors about my son and how he got better was I told them, because they would always do these, like the best cardiologists in the world would see my son and they would just look at me rubbing their forehead like, dude, what do you think, James? What do you like? How did you do this? Like how is Zeke like this? Like, I don't understand. And I'd say, look, man, every single time a doctor would come in when he's all shriveled up and they'd say, he can't hear you, I would verbally say, yes, he can. He hears me just fine. Let's go outside and talk. And we go in the hallway, me and him would have, the medical conversation, but I didn't want Zeke hearing that. And I remember somebody came in and said, I hate to tell you this, but he's pretty much going to die on that bed. And he was sitting right there. And I said, sir, no, he is not. He is not going to die. And he definitely is not dying on that bed. And then I said, if you ever want to talk about this, let's talk about it in the hallway, And so, but I think he always knew that dad had his back, and I would tell him things even when he was shriveled up before, he started talking again, after a while, not really well, but he started talking again. But I realized that whole time he could hear me. He could hear me and fully comprehend, and he had a conscience. Like he could talk to himself in his head. He just couldn't move his mouth. And so the dude, that whole time, he was hearing everything these people were saying. And I really think he started telling himself what I would tell him is I would, once I got him home, I'd tell him like a dozen times a day. I'd be like, Zeke, don't worry about all this, about your arms. I know you're worried about your hands and your legs. Don't worry about that. Let's just have fun today. And I literally bought this like $400 backpack that could hold up to a 100-pound kid. And I'd put him in this backpack and we would walk around the neighborhood and he's all shriveled up, but I would like carry him around and I just remember like over time, like he started laughing and, like he obviously would remember things because he loved dogs and like he would start moving and whenever he'd see a dog and basically tell me like, Dad, stop, I want to see the dog. And like, but yeah, so like, I think like verbally, saying what you want is huge. And I think it's something that every person can change their own destiny, by doing that. Like you can still be, like you can be in a bad mood and still verbally say something, and your brain will try to figure out how to do it. So here's an example, because I've heard people say like, they're like, well, this sounds like way too like spiritual or something. It has nothing to do with spirituality. Okay. This is just how your brain is. So like, if I say, I'm going to find a huge business opportunity at some point in my life, I know it. Okay. When I like drive by a Starbucks, my brain is going to go, dude, why don't you go in there and see if there's anybody you can talk to? And then I walk in there and I see somebody and I think, why don't I sit down by this guy? And I'm like, why do I think that? Well, my brain is telling me, dude, sit down and talk to that fool. Maybe that's the one, right? But if you're telling yourself, good stuff never happens to me. So-and-so was right. Like that stuff just doesn't happen to me. And you'd be surprised how many times you say that to yourself verbally to someone else or in a conversation in passing, but you verbally say something like that. And I've been extremely cautious on when I do that, I correct myself. I'll say, when I'm like, man, it just seems like nothing good ever happens to me. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, but then I realize like all the best stuff does happen to me. I'm just not realizing it in the moment. So I correct myself and somebody's like laughs about it, but I physically say it so that my brain goes, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to keep looking for opportunities, you know? Cause I think if you always say verbalize negative things, then you drive by that same Starbucks and your brain goes, dude, even if you go in there, definitely don't talk to anybody. You're just going to be rejected again and you're going to feel bad and you don't want to feel bad. So don't talk to anybody if you go in there. You know what I mean? And it's like you walk into the same place that another person would walk into who speaks life and you know, the opportunity walks right by you. So, you know, but that's a miracle, man. That's like how smart your brain is. You know, your brain is like almost like your best friend. Like it's going to try to tell you where opportunities are based on what you say. And this is like proven now. And we'll start in Europe now, in America, a lot of Ivy League, UCLA, like a lot of big schools now are supporting NLP. So.
Well, it seems crazy. It does seem crazy and mystic to think like, oh, it's all in your head. You can just manifest reality. You can just create. But if you really think about it, like if you're mad, or even if you're calm and you're passive and you decide to have a conscious thought, you know, hey, why am I feeling this way? You know, what is this feeling? Do I want to feel this way? Would I rather feel something else? You can go in and you can manipulate, you know, your thoughts and just the way that you carry yourself. I think that's a big thing that a lot of entrepreneurs, they skip over that mindset because they think, you know, this is some fucking ancient Egypt fucking third eye.
Right.
This guy's just shit, you know, he doesn't have anything real to talk about, so he's just going to be like, oh, you create your own reality. But I personally think, I mean, there's a lot of truth in that, you know, like the way that you look at the world. So
yeah, so and it's slightly different than like law of attraction. Law of attraction is more like just like it's almost like if you don't do anything but just think positively, everything good in the world will come to you. Like I'm not sure if I totally, and sometimes I wonder if that's really what they meant when they were doing that video, but like, I don't really see that in my life. I think like I've got to go, you know, it's almost like I've got to go plant a seed if I think something's going to grow, right? Like I don't just like look at the dirt and be like, well, yeah, someday, man, you know, that's going to be a huge harvest. You know what I mean? Like I've got to go buy the seed, figure out how to farm that sucker, and then plant a hell of a lot of seed. And a lot of that shit's going to die. And finally something will come up. Right. Like, but yeah, so like, that's what
I think that's another big issue entrepreneurs really struggle with is they want the fucking bread and they don't realize that to get the bread, you gotta, not only do you have to know how to make the bread, but somewhere, either you or somebody, they got to go and plant all that seed and raise all that wheat and then fucking harvest that shit, grind it up and mix it with some other stuff. It's like they just, I see that all the time myself. And I don't know if they're entrepreneurs, want to be entrepreneurs, people. I mean, but a lot of people just aren't actually ready to, like, they want an end result, but they're not ready to go through the process of what it takes to get there. So they give up on that.
Yeah. And like, you know, you've been in some of our coaching and it's funny, like, you know, you're successful. So like, you don't struggle with this, but there's people who are trying to make it happen and trying to get their first win. And they're like, James, you know, I worked 3 months and I tried this one thing and it didn't work. And it just feels like, you know, like when is something ever going to happen? And I'm like, did you say you tried one thing? Like you need to try like 10 things a day.
But there's a lot of people also who aren't fucking trying anything. They're just waiting.
Right.
Like, what do I try? I don't know what to try. Can someone please come and tell me what I get that all the time. People ask me, you know, even my messenger box, John, how do I make money? What should I do to make money? And I'm like, why the fuck are you asking me? Like, do you think I got the answer to this? Like, I don't give a fuck. Who cares how you make money? Because I'm trying to figure out how can I make money is what I'm trying to, like, go away. It's insane, really, the human mind and mentality. So did you ever work like a traditional job? Were you ever an employee?
Oh yeah, I've been a W-2 employee a lot through the years.
And, like, how did you finally, I don't want to sound rude, but like, let's say muster up the balls to be like, fuck this, I'm doing my own thing. Like, I'm out. I quit.
Yeah. So what's funny is a lot of times consulting becomes a W-2 job when you do well and you stay there long enough. So after a year or two, like people start realizing, dude, this guy's making more money than everybody. Like and we never see the dude, like how the hell is he making, so they're like, dude, give this guy a job here or get him out. Like, you know what I mean? It's political. It doesn't matter like if you're doing your job, getting the results, fulfilling your contract. It's just like, we don't like him because he makes more money and he's basically smarter than us. So get him out of here. So like even when I was at AT&T, I was a W-2 employee. When I was at the Innovation Center, I was doing so like, and I've done a lot of W-2 work. But basically, I was kind of like bouncing back and forth because, to be honest, like to some degree, like when I said like I don't really know who I am, that's what I literally mean. Like I when I was especially younger, I definitely didn't know who I was. So like I'm still figuring it out to this day. But like and that doesn't mean like I don't kind of know what I'm doing. But at the same time, like if you're really real with yourself, you're still trying to figure it out, and like But like being an executive at a big company was kind of cool to me for a while, and I really thought like, okay, if I can come in and with the reality that I see the world in and how I'm not about politics, like I think I can be more productive than all these other guys and gals. But I was like, the more that I was in there, I was like, I don't think these guys give a crap. And I don't think they're going to give me a chance because they don't want me there. They don't want me, like they don't want me on the board. They don't, you know what I mean? So yeah, like,
it's hard in that political sense though, right? It's hard in that political sense to really, like, if you look at it and a lot of people, I guess they don't understand it because a lot of people are just 9-to-5 people and they don't want to worry about the rest of the world. But if you think about it in a business, it's hard for any individual role to really want the best thing for the business, because the best thing, like if me and you are working together and all of a sudden you have an ideal that are 10 times better than mine, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to want to discredit you. I'm not going to want to be like, hey, this guy's actually a lot fucking better than me. Let's listen to him. I'm going to naturally be like, this guy's dumb. Why are we listening to him? My ideal is fucking best. And it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so basically what I realized was I had to be like a spy. I had to be undercover an entrepreneur, but to everyone I was playing the politics. And so I learned a lot about, knowing how to navigate political waters and not get your head cut off is a pretty good talent to have. I don't recommend it for everybody. Some people are just not built for it, but I became pretty good at playing politics too. And like, so people thought I was playing politics, but I was doing it just to jockey my way into a position. And then once I got that position, all the gloves came off and I was like, dude, we're going balls to the wall. Like we're going to freaking crush it. And that's how I would just blow up stuff. Like we would have revenue shoot through the roof. Like I would recruit all the best salespeople. And then, but as I'm doing that, like all these other leaders and executives are just like pissed at me. I had one lady at AT&T, this really powerful lady. She eventually got fired for something ethical, but she was trying to come after me and chop my head off and fire me for years. And she never was able to do it because I was always able to outmaneuver her. I always see when you learn how to there's this book, Art of War. It's the best political corporate politics book of all time, and it's about war in China. But it's basically like, you set up your troops so that your enemy thinks you're going to flank them on the left, but you really take the long route and go through the damn freaking rocks and come out on the right. You know what I mean? So you're always like, they think you're zigging when you're zagging. And man, it was actually pretty funny, like how how I could always avoid because I was a massive disruptor, man, like big time disruptor. And so, and I had no problem like calling somebody out and whatever. So, yeah, I always had to watch out because there were definitely executives who, if they were holding my team back, I would let everyone know. And, but so through the whole time from about 2006, I've always had consulting gigs on the side, always been doing consulting gigs. I used to actually work. There was this consulting firm it was called like Tribecta Insights. They're in New York. And they would always get me consulting gigs. And so I started out like $300 an hour, and then I was doing like $900 an hour. And there were always companies that wanted to pay me for advice, so this is before like Clarity. I think it's called Clarify.fm or something like that. I think is it Clarity or Clarify? But there's one of those. There's a site. I think it's Clarity or Clarify.fm. But it's basically the online version of what I used to do. Before that site was up. Like on Clarify, you can actually go on there and hire anybody for like by the minute. So some people are like $20 a minute, $5 a minute, $1 a minute, whatever. And you can get their advice and their consulting advice. But before that, you just have to go through like a big consulting firm. And so Tribecta Insights was a company that they were really well connected in the tech world. And so they were always like plugging me in with people who wanted to know about what I did and what I knew. And so even when I was working at a big company, I was making way more money working in consulting on the side, so like when the 4-Hour Workweek came out, the book, dude, I took that thing to heart. Like most people read that book because they thought it was really about working 4 hours a week. They totally missed the point. That book, dude, Tim Ferriss is going around the world talking about working 4 hours a week, and he's working like 80 hours a week promoting the book. Like, come on, dude. Like anybody who thinks that's, I was just like, dude, you guys are all idiots. You can totally miss the point of the book. The point is like to work smarter, And so, but literally like he has these chapters in there where he's like, look, here's exactly how you basically fake out all your bosses so that you can work on your side gig. I mean, dude, it was so smart. So I was doing some of it, but he had a whole system down, man. He's like, never respond to an email. I was like, that is smart. Like, cause he's like, corporate email, all you're doing is reading other people's problems. Like you're reading for 45 minutes, someone's problem. That's just one email, let alone like, what you have to do. So he's like, just stop replying. And he's like, sooner or later, everyone on the team will know if they need James to respond, they're going to walk up to you because they know you ain't replying. So after a while, dude, it was so funny. Like everyone would walk up to me every day. Like, hey, did you read my email? Nope. Yeah. Are you going to read it? No. Nope. Can you read it? Nope. They're like, what do you mean? No, I'm not reading your email. Well, I'll tell your boss. I'm still not going to read it. Like, why don't you just take 10 seconds or 30 seconds right now and explain to me what I need to do or what you think I need to do? Because even for you to go tell my boss and then go through all that political mess is going to take days and weeks, and I'm still not going to do it. And like, yeah, he might like, because even in Tim Ferriss's thing, he's like, dude, the worst they can do is like give you like the guy's an average performer score. Woo, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, dude, he's like, who the hell cares, And so, so yeah, like eventually people were just like, yeah, you know what? If I need James, I'll just talk to him or I'll text him. And, so eventually it just became the culture where people knew like, okay, if you want to get a hold of James, just walk up and talk to him because he ain't even read an email. But dude,
what made you make this big transition though? Because it seems like you're kind of in the same position that I was at. I work with a lot of big companies as well, managing their tech and building software for them. And I got to say, the whole fucking time that I did it, I fucking hated it. It paid good money and shit, but the whole time, like literally, and I don't want to sound conceited or anything, but I think it's you were kind of in the same boat where like the whole time I was, I'm working for fucking idiots. Like I'm working for dumbass fucking people. For some reason, they have more shit than I have. I don't know why, because they're not
Yeah.
that smart. And I hate it. Like, I don't want to do this. So, I mean, how did you decide to make that transition? But the money's good. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We want that.
So when Zeke passed away, I had this realization that I was actually a pretty damn good father. Even though some people had told, like, you know, you have shitty people in your life who tell you stupid stuff. Like, you know, there's even close people to me today who, you know, talk shit. But like, I had a realization that, like, dude, I was a pretty epic father. And I think that gave me a confidence to go like, if my brain is telling me someone's stupid and they're being stupid and they're not, and I'm smarter than them, I'm not 22 anymore. Like, I actually am smarter than them. And I was like, so then I remember having that same thought, man. I was like, I feel like I'm in this room and everyone in this room is an absolute idiot. I like, not saying them personally, but I just remember thinking, no one in this room, even though everyone in here is making 75 to 150 a year, like, no one in this room is actually trying to solve a problem. Everyone's just talking about problems. Everyone's just creating problems, but no one in here is trying to solve anything. And they don't give a rip. No one's trying to actually solve a problem. I just remember thinking, these people are all idiots. Like, these people are all wasting the company's money. And finally, when Zeke passed away, it was like this realization that, like, James, you're right. Like, it's not just like this gut feeling. Like, you're actually right. Like, these people don't have a damn clue. And so I think that's like even though I had told people that, but I never fully, like, embraced it, you know? And also I never built a personal brand. So one thing about having a lot of big executive consulting things is, like, they don't want you to be out there, definitely not on social media,
Sure.
saying, look at the check I got, or, you know, I helped so-and-so got 2,000 more units. Like, you know, they don't want you saying nothing because the board doesn't know. The company could be public. Like, the you know, sometimes the CEO doesn't know that you're working, that you're the guy pulling the strings. So, you know, well, it's politics. They don't want anyone else. They want to take the credit. So it was in almost every one of my contracts. It was in the terms that I couldn't talk. Basically, everything was like under NDA, pretty much. Like, you couldn't disclose anything. So yeah, like I never built, like, a personal brand, like, publicly, although I had a personal brand amongst, like, consultants and stuff. But so I think I was a little bit afraid, to be honest with you, to go out and build a personal brand. I didn't really know how to do it. It's funny, I never really have said that on the internet, but I didn't know how to do it. I was just like anyone else. I was just like, man, I have no freaking clue, like, how to do it. And you know, I started this thing called Ultimate Influencers because I thought, like, well, I've got to do what I've always done in the past, which is build a corporate brand. And finally, I had these coaches, these entrepreneur coaches, and they're like, dude, screw that. Screw Ultimate Influencers. Screw all that stuff. They're like, dude, the brand is James Smiley. You gotta sell yourself and the story of you. And once I went to the personal brand and I really embraced that, that's when it all blew up. You know, that's when it went big. And you know, there's a new up and comer, a guy who's done really well recently in the last year and a half. His name's Dan Locke, and he has a podcast on ClickFunnels Radio, and he actually said the same thing. He said, when I went to being Dan Locke, not some, you know, high ticket seller brand or whatever, but when he went to be Dan Locke, then that's when it blew up, you know. And so I don't really do business the way he does, but yeah, I mean, like, I think that's when I really embraced that. That's when it really did well, you know. And so, but yeah, like, people think like, I mean, you have to know, like, people think, like, the personal branding space has been around for, like, you know, on the internet for like 10, 15 years. It hasn't. Like maybe in, like, you know, movie stars and athletes, but just, like, for some average person who didn't go to college and to build a personal brand, it's, like, very rare. You know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it's pretty rare. like that somebody could do it. Now it's a lot easier now, right? Like within the last 2 years, it's completely changed. 2 to 3 years, completely changed. But, but one of the biggest things I think that, so when I spoke at my, the Funnel Hacking Live Mastermind, we had about 250 people at this event 2 days before ClickFunnels in Nashville last year, ClickFunnels conference. And so I hosted that event, and I was, through surveys and stuff, people wanted me to talk about this. They wanted me to talk about like, dude, basically, like, dude, where the hell did you come from? Like 3 years ago, we didn't know, no one knew the hell you were. 2 years ago, most people didn't know the hell I was. And so they're like, now, you're featured on clickfunnels.com, you're, like all this stuff. And they're like, well, who the hell is James Smiley, basically, and now you're hosting this big event, and, you got Steve Larson, Rachel Peterson, like people who speak at the Funnel Hacking Live event are speaking at your event. Like, how the hell did that happen? And basically I gave this speech about the epic failures that I had made in the last 2 to 3 years and basically I said, look, I'm the same person as you. I just didn't let these things hold me back. And man, there were people who were crying, like, and I didn't know it was going to hit him in the heart that way. But I was like, I've had bad partners. I've had partners totally screw me. I've had some crazy stuff. Like one thing, I don't really talk about it yet because it's about to finalize here in a couple weeks probably. But, a year and a half ago, my wife like tried to come after my money and everything and filed a divorce on me. Like just out of the blue, you know what I mean? Like we were talking about like some issues, and I shouldn't say out of the blue, but we were talking about some real life issues, but she just got scared and didn't, so whatever, I don't want to talk bad about her. I don't want to be that dude, but yeah, like just out of the blue, dude, I freaking like, we got all these kids, she, the way it went down, like she wanted all the kids. I only wanted one kid. She wanted all the kids, and now she doesn't want to take care of them. And I'm like, so for the last year and a half, I've actually tried to put all that thing back together, and worked really hard, drug her into counseling, and she just doesn't want to go back. And so she tried to take everything. And so luckily, like I had to hire Deion Sanders' lawyer, and I made it out fine. But, and luckily I live in Texas, not in California. But so like, I mean, it's life, and I'm just moving forward. I've been totally positive about the whole thing. So I've had a lot of people, dude, I had like 15, 20 people come up to me after that speech and like, dude, how did you do all this in the last year and a half? You're going through a horrible divorce. And I was like, dude, I just knew I didn't do anything wrong. And I shouldn't say that. Like the things I did do wrong, I just admitted to them. That's life. Like you just make mistakes, right? Everyone does. But like, to me, that's not like doing someone wrong, right? Like I wasn't like I made mistakes, but I wasn't like doing someone wrong. Like I just made some mistakes. I apologized to people, and I wanted to move forward and just say, hey man, this is life. Like, let's just move forward. But, so at the end of the day, like I just had a clear conscience about it. And I was just like I'm not gonna let it bother me, and yeah, just continuing to speak life over myself and everything, and just continue to focus on my business and grow it. And that just gave me a lot of purpose and a lot of encouragement and excitement. And it was awesome. It actually, I mean, to be honest, man, it has ended up being like one of the most life-changing experiences, because I personally did not think I could go through something like this. I thought I would have to shut down and, and I was a little bit scared for a while. I didn't know like what was going to happen, but luckily, like, I mean, I don't, once again, divorce is touchy, and I know everyone has like, some people, they've been through such bad divorces. Like you say, you've been through a divorce, they just like hate you. And I'm like, dude, wasn't part of your divorce. Like, why are you blaming me? And so I actually had, I don't want to say the guy's name, but I had a very high influencer. This guy recently did a launch with Tony Robbins. I'll put it that way. I had a very high influencer call me when he heard that, if through a friend of a friend, somebody was like, hey dude, if you could call this kid's a young up and comer and he's going to go through a horrible divorce, and you went through a horrible divorce, and, can you give this guy some advice? And so he told me, he said, James, he said, I don't know you, but he goes, you know, you're like, there's gonna be people who, when they hear you're going through a divorce, they're gonna associate you with their divorce or the divorce they heard about or the divorce their parents went through, and so they're gonna just not like you. And he's like, you know what, man, you just gotta like accept that, and you can't change those people, and you can't live the rest of your life being pissed at them. They're just it's like they're dealing with their own issue, and they're going to think you're linked to it now, you know? And so, but dude, that has shocked me. Like, people who were really close friends of mine, like, you'd be surprised, man. Like, some of the worst, I had people tell me, dude, the worst thing to do in church is get a divorce. Dude, like, people who you think are supposed to be full of grace are just like,
sure,
dude, they're slandering the crap. They don't even call you. They don't say nothing. They won't meet with you. They're just slandering you. I'm just like, dude, I wish I never went to church, man. Like, geez, man, these guys are crazy. Not everybody, but you know, some of them. I'm just like, dude, these guys could be nuts. And so you know, it's funny, like, but it's been a really good experience. It's one I wouldn't wish on anybody. Like, just like I wouldn't wish, you know, somebody's son passing away. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But literally, I would not wish that on my worst enemy.
Would you say, though, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way at all. Would you say that your son's passing has been a good experience for you?
It has been a life-changing experience. And I would not change it if I had the opportunity to. And that's been really hard for me to I would have changed it for anything, you know, but once he passed away and I seen everything that happened and I seen like how it changed my life. See, cause I think, and I saw this stat that like, it's like over 90% of parents who deal with the death of a child, they end up in a divorce, because it hardens your heart a lot, you know? And so, like, I just felt like that was a big part of, like, what happened with us is, you know, we were definitely in love and stuff, but, like, I just think, like, my wife deals with things a lot differently, I think, in her culture. And so, or maybe doesn't deal with it. So, like, just, like, when it, like, just, like, you can tend to, like, desensitize yourself because, like, when you go through the death of a child, like, if you don't deal with it right, and it takes time, man. It takes time to deal with the death of a child. And so, like, and process it, talk to people, and, you know, and like, you know, learn how to see what good could come out of this. And, you know, my life is happening for me, not to me, you know, and all those things. And, like, and to really, like, I know that phrase, but, like, to really come to a state where, like, I knew this stuff was happening for me was really hard. It was really, really hard, you know, and it took a long time to really know that. And I just think, like, it took a lot longer for maybe, you know, it's taken a lot longer for my ex-wife to feel that way. But man, I wish her the best, you know. She's smart and she'll do fine, and, you know, but yeah, I mean, it, you know, life, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, life. So whether somebody listening, like, went through that or whatever, or they lost their company or blah, you know what I mean? Like, dude, like, no matter what, like, you got to understand that, like, it's how you take it. You know what I mean? This is, like, how we kind of started the conversation. It's like, dude, no one, like, I remember, like, telling business partners and stuff, like, in business deals I was in, like, hey, man, my son died. Dude, no one cared.
Shut up. What about this tax liability? How do we lower that? How do we make more money? Who gives a what?
Right.
Dead yet? Let him die. Well, are you going to come back to work and actually perform your job once he's dead? I mean, what's going on?
Yep.
Motherfucker, right? Like, it's fucking crazy. It's all relative, right? So yep. I really think it's amazing, that perspective, right? I think just hearing, and this is one of the things I love so much about Mentor Lab and being in it is like a lot of times I sit there, and I'm just gonna be honest, and I hope it doesn't offend you, but a lot of times I sit there and I'm thinking, you know, I already know all this shit. Like, I actually don't need a mentor. I actually don't need a coach. I don't actually need help. You know, like, I'm listening to this guy. I know everything he's already said. But then it hits me like, you know what? I needed that. Like, I thought I knew that, and I did know that. And just hearing the reinforcement. And I think the biggest thing that I love being in there is just being with other people, but then also hearing a different perspective, whether it's a different perspective or it's that same thought that you've had over and over and over, and it just gets solidified. But I think, that this here has really, it's given me a lot different, view and respect of you. But I think that thought process right there that you said is really deep, to be able to look at something like you look at my mentor lab, and you look at, the whole process that's happening there, and mentorships in general, just, somebody coming to somebody else, what should I do? How should I deal with this? Could you help me with this? But just that mindset of shifting from fuck your little business, no one cares about your little business and how you can sell more widgets. How can you look at the death of your child and look that in the face and have a mentality and a philosophy of, how is this helping me? How can I use this for good? Because if you could do that, then you fucking solve all the problems in your business, right? I think that is something that people should really think and consider, is like, that's a really powerful thing that you said, and I'm really glad that we've had this interview and you said that.
Yeah, dude, I didn't expect this, but it didn't shock me that it took someone like you with your background to have this real of a conversation. That's cool.
My background's insane, man. Like my dad was a Baptist preacher, and I literally used to sit in my house with fucking broken bones in my face and my ribs, because that crazy fucking psycho decided, I'm the devil. I'm going to beat the fuck out of you because it gives me power, and that's what I actually want to do. And listen to him literally rape my mom in a different room, knowing that, hey, next Sunday I'm going to have to come back down and talk to a bunch of stupid fucking people who fucking don't understand anything about the world, that are looking to a God because they don't want answers, and have my dad speak to them in a different language about how, you should love your family. So I have a really weird look on life myself, James. And I look at it the same way. It's all relative. So it's like,
and dude, you've crushed it, bro. Like you're you guys are doing awesome. You guys are absolutely crushing it.
Relatively, we're still sucking. We're still sucking so bad. But again, it's all relative. So is my mentor lab still open? Can people still join and get in my mentor lab?
Yep.
How would they do that? Just go to mymentorlab.com?
Yeah, mymentorlab.com. They can PM me or whatever if they want to. But yeah, I mean, definitely if anybody, wants to be a part of that, and we're just trying to build a culture and like a family atmosphere there and just a place where people can learn and be real and get mentorship, in entrepreneurism. Doesn't matter where you're at. Starter or, doing 7 figures like you guys are or whatever, and we got a lot of successful people in there, which is really cool. So yeah, if somebody wants to jump in, for sure.
I love it myself, James. I miss it sometimes, like actually going to the meetings, because I got so much going on. But everyone that I've been at, I've definitely got some value from, and all sorts of different. I really think having you and Colton and JR there, because you guys all have different things that you've brought to the table. This has been great. I have to piss so bad, James, to tell you the truth. I really have to pee so bad. I really enjoyed having you here, though, and I wanted to ask you, like, literally, I got a whole, if you look at it, I got a whole list of, like, all these are coming from my chat bot, and they're all questions for you. Some of the red ones are just stupid questions. I guess some of them aren't stupid questions. One of them is, I'd have to know who you are first, because I didn't tell people who you are. I just gave them your intro, that you're one of the most innovative and on-demand entrepreneurs under 40. What types of questions would they ask you? But I think the things that we've talked about are even a lot more powerful than like, what's the quickest way to become a high-paid executive? Who really cares about that? Can you figure out who the fuck you are, and can you turn negative experiences into a positive experience? And I think you've really shed a lot of light on how that would be possible. Is there anything that you want to say? Like I said, I really have to pee real bad. So can you just say something for like 90 seconds while I pee?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what I would say to all y'all following and stuff and following John is, I think at the end, like how do you become a high paid executive? I really think at the end of the day, it's not just being a high paid executive. It's like, can you be a high paid executive and also enjoy who you are? And so I would say, like, the answer to that and the key to that is figuring out who you are, you know, and when you figure out who you are, your strengths, what you're not, you know, then you can be comfortable and you can have like, you can be grateful, maybe not comfortable, but you can be grateful for what you have, you know, and you can also have that realization that you always have something, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, I don't know, like, you know, going through a divorce was tough. And like, there were times when I wrote a check to my lawyer, because Deion Sanders' lawyer is not cheap. So like, I mean, it was a ridiculous over 6-figure divorce. And like, but I had to do it just to clear my name from accusations and stuff. But like, so like, there were times when that would happen, and I would think, man, like, is this all going to go under? You know, but I think like having been through tougher stuff than that, and looking at it the right way, I think really like helped me know how to like come through the other stuff with the right attitude, you know? So, and that doesn't mean I did everything perfect, but I tried my best to do it with the right attitude. And welcome back, John. Welcome back to your show. But so, hey, just to be real, on like I want to also tell, I think this would be helpful for people while we're having this real conversation around like, so like, I've actually like over rotated, I think, on being real sometimes too. So like there was a guy who, I definitely want to say his name, but there was a guy who, every big influencer that I know knows this guy is known for like creating fake profiles on social media. And he must have like a VA, because it's really detailed. So he must have a VA or somebody who does it. And then he'll sick these profiles on you. And you know it's him, because like we would seed him with stuff that is actually like a lie. Like we basically would seed him with something. Then there's like some random VA or some random like Joe Schmo profile talking to you about this stuff. And you're like, dude, how the hell do you know that? There's no one I've ever mentioned that to but this guy. And, you know, like, so we would catch him in that, but we wouldn't really say anything. And then, so, like, I got on the phone with him this year, and basically I told him, like, dude, you're full of crap. And I, you know, I just learned, like, a part of me is just being real. You know, I don't want to, like, beat around the bush. So I think that was fine. Like, I just told him, like, dude, just leave me the hell alone, dude. And he basically said he wasn't. So I was like, all right, dude, next time I see you, I'm going to kick your ass. He was just like, well, that's immature. Oh, you know, dude. And I mean, so I was like, okay. I hung up. I was like, maybe I over-rotate on that one a little bit. Like, I mean, I don't know, dude. But I'm from Texas right now, so it's like, dude, you know, like, I mean, I've been here for 7 years, but it's like, that's how people handle stuff in Texas. Like, if you ever have a problem, why don't we just walk out there and settle it real quick? You know, we don't need to call the cops. Let's just walk out there and settle it real quick. You know, I mean, it's just, but yeah. So like, you know, like I'm not, I don't want anybody to think like that I'm perfect or anything. I mean, I do the same stupid stuff everyone else does. But you know, yeah, if I see him someday, I mean, I probably will say, look, dude, do you want to go settle it? Like, let's just be honest. Like, if you do, we could just walk out back and settle it. But if not, you know, may the best man win. But like, if not, then dude, just shut up. Like, you know. But one thing I want to say on haters. So by the way, I've never had a dude like that before, where like, because one thing to block him, but you don't know like who all his fake profiles are and stuff. And so, but one thing that I know, I know a lot of Facebook reps and Amazon people and stuff. And so Amazon and Facebook, like these guys are all trying to stop haters. So they're putting in places now where like you can report these people, report their profiles. So for instance, like when we had this big book launch recently where we had a #1 bestseller and all this stuff, me, Steve Larson, Akbar, Josh Forty, all these guys were in the book. Like
Josh Forty is one of those guys on my list, by the way, that If I saw him somewhere, I'd be like, hey, do you just want to go punch each other in the face a couple times?
Right.
Afterward?
Yeah. It's, may the best man win, So, but, so this guy, there was this one, we got one bad review, all 5 stars. And then we had 1-star review. And it happens to be, once again, a completely spoofy fake profile, no background. You can't see who the person is. It's some Joe Schmo name. You look him up. It's no one. And then all the detail in this review is talking about stuff that has nothing to do with the book. It's very personal information. And so we submitted a review to Amazon and said, hey, like, this is kind of like a harassment review because the person's talking about nothing that deals with the book. This profile's fake. The person's not identifying themselves. And Amazon took it down. And so I'm just trying to encourage people out there that, like, more and more the platforms are getting, I hate use the word safer, but they're getting, I don't want to create a society of like people who feel like everything needs to be safe for me to do business. But they're making it easier for you to get rid of haters, So, because the reality is that is one person of like thousands of people that it's like you don't want to let that one person stop you from reaching the 99 that want to hear you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, that's something we coach people on all the time is people are like, well, my cousin doesn't like me or so-and-so from school or so, I'm like, dude, block them, like get them off your, it's not like you can't be friends with them still. Like, geez, just because Facebook says you're not friends doesn't mean you're not friends. Like, golly. But like, just if they're hating on your content, just block them, and just move on. Because there's so many people out there who need to hear what you have to say or want to hear what you have to say. That, I think a part of finding yourself is being confident in being yourself.
Listen, the confidence is really important for sure. So I've got a lot of jobs where to be honest, I had no fucking clue what I was doing or what I was going to do, but the confidence that I had just to be confident to them, like, yeah, fuck yeah, I can do it, and they'd be like, well, and deep down inside, I would know, like, I have no idea what this person is talking about or even if I can do this, but they thought, hey, that is the guy for the job right there. And that was just because I let that confidence comes out. What do you think the biggest, because you're working pretty much just with solopreneurs now, right? You're not really big businesses now. Now you're just focused with solopreneurs, trying to help them grow and hopefully reach their goals like that big business, but not get involved in that type of, politicalness and fucking stupid craziness. What do you think the biggest problem is that you're seeing with all these solopreneurs? Like, what do you think the biggest, most common problem is?
I think
how can they solve that?
Yeah, I think there's two kind of, there's like forks. So there's like the 80% of solopreneurs where they're struggling just to get something off the ground, and it's typically around how they think. So it's how they think, which is also, I think, tied into how they work, or maybe they don't work. So, for instance, like there was a guy who, I don't jump on all of our sales calls, but I was going to jump on a sales call yesterday. And there was a guy who, like we have all these tripwires that it's like a reverse tripwire in internet marketing. Like we're trying to trip someone up if they have a personality problem, if they have an arrogance problem, if they're not coachable. Right. And so like there was a guy who, was trying to get on the phone with me yesterday, and he got all pissed off through our automated text messaging system. He doesn't even realize he's talking to a robot. And he's like, why would you ask me these questions? Of course I'm going to show up. This is unprofessional for you to ask me a question like this, blah, blah, blah. And so, and then I particularly, when I show up to a call, not all my salespeople do this, but I show up exactly 5 minutes late to the T. And I do that because I'm trying to see, like, what is the attitude of this person, because what I've realized is, like, somebody who's overly academic, or they think they're academic, typically is going to struggle as an entrepreneur because they think in the frameworks of school and college and, the 4 P's of marketing and your business plan. That's how you grow a business, and, got to get a business loan. And they think like that. And maybe those people can be successful, but that's not what I teach. It's not, those aren't the type of people that I help. So we want to try to eliminate them before we waste an hour talking to them to figure out they're not a good fit. So, this person just completely it was one of the most hilarious things that I've personally seen, where they were so mad that I was 3 minutes late that they hung up, and I joined 4 minutes in, and they hung up and they started texting the automated system and all this stuff. And they're like, I was 3 minutes in the call by myself and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, this is exactly why this person is missing out on their opportunities, is because I actually wanted to know more. The person intrigued me once I saw the text thread. So I looked them up. I looked them up on LinkedIn, looked them up on Facebook, looked them up, and the person definitely had some talent, but was really struggling. And I was like, this is literally exactly the person's problem. He doesn't even realize this is actually his exact problem, is everything is a victim. He's a victim. And 3 minutes late, I'm a victim. I'm the victim of the system, and you ask me a question, I'm a victim. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, bro, just calm down. You're about to talk to somebody who can help you and change your life. Or maybe I can't, but we're about to just have a normal human being conversation. Just chill the hell out, and this guy literally stepped over $100 to pick up a nickel, and I could just tell that's been the story of this person's life, is their mindset has kept them away from that, I could have went through this divorce and had the same attitude. I could have went through the thing with my son's death. I could have went through a bad business partnership in 2016. I could have went, I could have had the same attitude, but I choose not to see it that way, So I think that's a lot of the people. Then there's the people who are productive. And what I have found with them is, so these are the best people to coach, by the way, is they're kind of, clean in terms of how they think. Their thinking is very practical, and, they're complex thinkers. They think very well. They can major in the majors, right? They know when someone's talking about something minor and it may be an issue, but yeah, who cares? You can't solve all the world's problems, so who cares, right? So what I found with these kind of people is they technology has given them capabilities that they've never had. I mean, look at you, man. You're in another country. You got a team of people. You're crushing it. You're doing all the stuff on the internet. I mean, that stuff wasn't around 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. You couldn't do that. So even just developer costs and all the new software development stuff and just, AWS and just all this stuff is so accessible. The capabilities of just any Joe Schmo with a damn phone, the capabilities now is unreal, unprecedented. And the thing that solopreneurs struggle with, who, the 20%, I think, is they struggle with systems, processes, and knowing how to navigate the waters, so to speak. Some of it is they're not great negotiators, or they're not great at taking the next step in their business. And those are all things that I've done, and I'm very fortunate to have gone through a lot of that stuff. And not just once or twice, but I've been through it time and time again. So it's to some degree, I've had people, obviously being a consultant for a paid consultant for 14 years, having paid clients for 14 years, people start to ask you, dude, what the hell do you even do? Right. They're like, dude, you don't even have a real job. No one really knows what a consultant does. And the way that I answer is I'm when I'm really doing real consulting, not there's now there's kind of a little bit of babysitting that you do with people who have their own mindset. But when you're doing real consulting, you're like a spy where like I've been in the land before. I've been where you're going, and like now I'm telling somebody, hey man, when you cross that wall, you're going to see this road, and you're going to think go right. But I'm telling you, dude, I've been right 25 times. You're never going to make it that way. You want to go straight or left. And if you go left, here's the problems. If you go straight, here's the problems. But I'm going to prepare you for what's going to happen down those roads, you know? And, and so it's like having that kind of insight. Like, it's like, so practically it's like somebody saying, look, man, here's the plans of how I want to grow my business. What do you think about this? Or, like I just had somebody Vox me this morning. Hey, James, I got this proposal. It's really big. Can you give me a minute or two of advice on what you would do in this situation? You know, so like having somebody to look at that with you, that's true mentorship, and be able to like look over your shoulder and say like, hey, I'm not, to be honest, like I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but if I were you, this is actually what I would do. To have somebody do that is invaluable and literally can be worth millions of dollars to your business, you know. And if somebody is an implementer, what I've realized is like there's the 80% who like, you know, they're still struggling with implementation, but when you deal with an implementer and an execute, like somebody who can execute, they only need like one or two strategies and they can just crush it because they can execute. So like one or two strategies can just change their whole business, you know, like, you know, there's this guy, David Wolf, with 2 F's. He's in the group, and he was in my platinum program, and he's built, you know, $1 million businesses before, but he was kind of, you know, in a lull in life and stuff. And like everyone, you know, goes through ups and downs. And so he wanted to start a new thing, and he had this like, he had this product he had developed. And so we got on the phone 2 or 3 times, and I told him some strategies of how to go about distribution and winning people over and blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling you, dude, I never heard from this guy for like 4 months. I literally thought the guy quit, maybe ran off the road. Like, I'm like, I don't know what happened to him. And then he came back like 3 months later, and he's like, dude, you're not going to believe this, but I've made like 300 grand off your idea. And now 10, 11 months later, he's done over $1 million. He's all over the news. He basically developed this little box you put in the water, and it filters, it cleans water. It uses algae, and it's a whole process. He was a marine biologist in college. So, but so he knew like the tech side of how to make the science of how to make this thing work, but he didn't know like the sales and marketing distribution. So he was basically sold through like ClickFunnels and Russell and these guys to like build a webinar funnel. And I was like, dude, I've been down this road before. You can build a webinar funnel, but I'm going to tell you right now, dude, to sell that thing, you want to go to people who buy crap like that. And there's aggregates, there's massive groups of people who are into stuff like that. There's also mayors, and there's people who will buy 200 grand of those things because they have green initiatives and stuff like that. So, you know, and by the way, so that strategy, I just talked to him on the phone 2 or 3 times, and he just crushed it, you know, because he knows how to execute. So those people are the funnest to work with as a coach, but because they can go and get the big results. But I'll be honest, I really do value. I have a lot, and this is why I think we have a tremendous amount of people who try to get in with us. Is like, I really value being there along someone's journey. You know what I mean? And helping somebody through like their mental states, and you know, like seeing somebody's life transform. Like the light bulb goes on in their head about, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like when I get those Voxers and I hear people say that, it's like it has the same, not exactly, but has a similar feel of like when I would have a breakthrough moment with my son who passed away. Like, you know, when I would have a breakthrough moment with him, like it's a similar feeling I get when I see somebody's life change, you know? And so I'm always willing to invest in them. the only time that I pull back is when they're not investing in themselves. You know, when they're you know, there's a couple people, not many, there's one or two people in our group right now who they're still self-sabotaging themselves. Like they're, you know, everything is everyone else's fault. And, you know, this stuff just doesn't happen for me. And, you know, so I definitely deliver and show up and, you know, do everything, but I will overperform for somebody who gives themselves a chance. You know what I mean? Like somebody who, yeah, you know, because I know
more frustrating than seeing somebody like seeing somebody not like be like, hey, what am I supposed to do? And then not want to actually do anything. There's that it's very, very frustrating to sit and try to help somebody, but they don't want to help themselves. And you're like, well, what the fuck would I help you? You don't like, I'm trying to help you. You're trying to destroy yourself. Like this is not.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, so like it has been a shocker to me. I will be totally honest. So when I first heard that like all these entrepreneurs and all these big wigs from Steve Jobs to, you know, I grew up in Seattle, so like Bill Gates and all these guys were talking about like mindset and, you know, you're poor because of your mindset. I'll be honest. When I was young, I didn't believe it. I was like, dude, I'm poor because I live in a damn poor neighborhood. That's what I used to tell people. I'm like, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Dude, I didn't have a rich dad. I had a poor dad, poor dad. Okay, so that's why I'm poor. I was going to write the book Poor Dad, Poor Dad. That's why I'm poor. But then like, then I started realizing like, so I had this paper route at 13 and I should go back and do a video because I know that the Beacon Hill newspaper, it's still there. And like, I had a paper route and I only made like, when I got the route, I think I was making like $200 a month. But I doubled the revenue of that paper route just by knocking on every door and asking them, hey, did you know there's a paper? And you'd be surprised. People were like, no, I didn't know there was a paper. And so I doubled the revenue of that paper route. And then I did that again and knocked on the doors again and doubled it again. And so, so then like once I saw that happen to myself, it wasn't like, you know, millions of dollars, but I saw that happen. I was like, how many people have a damn paper route, won't knock on one door? You know what I mean? And I was like, maybe getting rich is about how you think about the world. You know what I mean? I was like, what if I just like started showing up to things more? Or, you know, I mean, like Seattle's a super democratic place. So like buses are free, like everything's kind of free and taxes are super high to pay for it all. So dude, like there was nothing stopping me from going to ride the bus to a rich neighborhood. Nothing. There's nothing stopping me from going to like, you know, West Seattle, a real nice place and like sitting around with a bunch of rich people in Starbucks. So that's what I kind of started doing. Like I was just like started like getting out and like getting away from where I was. So I made a personal decision. And I'll be honest, I didn't meet somebody who gave me $1 million job or I didn't have any of that story. But I started realizing that not everyone was living like me. And I think that was my first realization as a kid was I was like, there's not just like 10 people who are living a different lifestyle. There's like millions of people who are living a different lifestyle than me. And I was like, whatever they're doing something totally different than what I'm doing. Like, you know, and I tell this story in a webinar we just did where like my dad, who's a total like labor kind of guy, physical labor guy, never really uses his mind. But like he had me as a teenager, like pushing boxes in a FedEx warehouse. So literally from 2 a.m. to like 6 a.m, almost, you know, during the summers, I'm pushing boxes in a freaking warehouse. And I remember I was making like $7 an hour or something like that. And I remember thinking like, how do you make $1 million making $7 an hour? And so I asked somebody one time at night, and you know, I asked the manager. I said, "Hey, how do I become a millionaire working here?" And I was just being honest. And they didn't know that. They just kind of like laughed, and they were like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "I'm dead serious. Like, how do you do it?" And they're like, "Man, if you work here like 40, 50 years, you'll probably be making like $50 an hour. Then you might have a chance." And then he walked away. And so I did the math at making $50 an hour. I'm like, there ain't even enough hours to make $1 million, making $50 an hour. So I was like, he doesn't know. So then I started pushing boxes again. My brake was off. But I remember as I was pushing those boxes, I was going, the rich people are not in this warehouse. Not that I had a problem or I'm not disrespecting anybody. I'm just saying, like, if that's what I was called to do, I was like, they're not in here. They're a part of a different mathematical equation where they're not being paid by the hour. They're not going from $7 to $10 to $12. Like, there's a different mathematical equation that they're involved in, and somehow I need to figure that out.
So is there, that kind of leads me into a question. Is there a way that, because it's something that I personally have been curious about, and I asked you before, and you told me some bullshit. You told me I had to fucking do a rap dance or something like that. You said I had to do a dance competition. But is there a way for me, I know people can go in and they can join my mentor lab at mymentorlab.com, and it's a great group. It's really, it's helped me a lot, in lots of different ways. But is there a way that people can work with you more exclusively, just one-on-one with you? Is that your platinum plan?
Yeah. So on my site, here I'll type it into on jamessmiley.org. I think .com works too, but yeah, you can apply for coaching, or anybody can apply for coaching, and it's definitely like an elite group of people. We got about 30 something people in my platinum program, and but it's there's a lot of one-on-one. We meet. We do have group calls, but people have a lot of one-on-one access to me. I mean, I've spent hours and hours reviewing people's webinars and sales scripts and listening to their calls, or talking to them about how do we develop new partnerships, like just all that stuff. So yeah.
Because that's something that I'm curious, because I think that's something that you could help me out there, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do is finish up this partnership program. I checked out jamessmiley.org. But that looks like it's just that actually, whenever I was looking at it, it looks like it took me into my mentor lab. It looked like they were both the same, like my mentor lab.
It should say coaching on the top, like on the top right.
Okay. So I'm trying to. Okay, your one-on-one coaching. All right.
Yeah.
That actually redirects to. All right, there it is, right there. That's something that I was curious about, and this has been really great. I've got to learn a lot of stuff that I didn't know about you, and I'm really glad that you have been so open. A lot of people like maybe would have just been like, oh no, fuck this, or it just would have been like like the eggshells. Like, you didn't make it how, like, because like I said, I'm just legitimately curious about stuff, and you didn't make it like, okay, I'm walking on eggshells. Some people would have, like, if I would have been like, yo, like I said earlier, like, you're out there and you're working on business, and like your kid's literally dying, and your business is like, these people, they're like, hey, fuck that, your kid's gonna die, who cares, help my business. A lot of people would have just, like, right then, they just would have been like, no, dude, like, let's not talk about that. So I really appreciate you being able to talk about that. And I think that says a lot to why you're where you're at, is because of your own mindset and your own mentality on how you're able to look at things and be like, okay, hey, that's life. What do I do? Do I say fuck it, or do I grab it and own it and move on and try to make myself better? And I really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man, for sure. Yeah, and hopefully it inspires people who listen to this, like that hopefully what you really took away is like, dude, I'm not perfect at all. Like, that didn't mean I'm perfect, or I yelled at my boy sometimes and thought, man, I shouldn't yell at him, or I got frustrated and whatever, but all in all, like, I just kept moving forward, and I just I tried to be somebody who would apologize when I effed it up, and yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, you can't expect to be perfect in life, and so it's like, when I went through, going through like the divorce, like sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I wouldn't have brought up some of the issues me and my wife are having, because if I wouldn't have brought those things up, then she wouldn't have filed a divorce. She wouldn't have got scared and filed a divorce on me. But the more I've thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm like, these were real damn issues. Like, this was me being real. Like, so I did apologize to her about, like, maybe I should have said it differently, or maybe I could have found a better time. I don't know. Like, but at the end of the day, I was like, it's not like these weren't issues. You know what I mean? So, but like when I look back, like it's so easy to look back, right, and be like, man, I could have did this better, could have did that better, could have had the better timing on this, whatever. But it's like, the people who are really in your corner when they give you grace on that, right? Like they're like, yeah, dude, yeah, you effed it up, but it's all good. Like I know where your heart is. You know what I'm saying? So like, so yeah, I mean, like I just, it's funny how we started this conversation, like saying, hey man, I'm just a normal dude. And now like, hopefully people see like we are just normal people. You know what I mean? Like we've just, we've just pushed hard through life and just hustled, but pretty damn normal.
I wonder about myself sometimes if when I'm out there looking, like, because that's something I was talking about today. Like I said, it's my birthday. You can see it's like all my employees and stuff. They put balloons.
Yeah.
To celebrate, and then they bought me all sorts of gifts. One of them's a big bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label. And
nice.
Mostly because they're wanting to get drunk on my birthday. So since I don't really drink alcohol that much, they buy me alcohol, because then I'm just like, okay, hey, you can have it. So, and that's what I was trying. I grabbed them all up and I was like, you know what? You guys want to celebrate my birthday and give me something for my birthday, then just come sit here and sit down and answer me this question. It's kind of the first question that I ask you, like, who the fuck are you? Like, not who the fuck are you, but who am I? Like, because I'm still so confused myself, and I ask myself every day, like, who am I? And is what I'm actually doing, is it really valuable, and does it have any importance? And I think it's awesome. I really love the fact that you said, like, I don't really know. It's like, I'm kind of sure, but I don't really know yet. And I think a lot of people get hung up there, right? And they look at all these other people and they're like, oh, well, that guy's so well together, and they know who they are, and they know what they're all about. And they're looking at this other person, making some assumption that person knows who they are and what they're doing, and they're causing that they're letting that tell themselves, okay, well, you don't know who you are, and that's a hindrance. And as opposed to, okay, fine, I don't know who I am, so what? This has been really great. I didn't expect this to go this way, because like I said, I had so many different questions that people wanted to ask that were mostly about, growing your business and the number one thing that contributed to your success, and what examples can you provide on how you succeeded, and where you get your motivation, and how do you find founding partners, and what's the most important habit that you've had, and the biggest mistake that you've made, and the quickest way to get paid, and how would you start over? There was one really weird question that was, what is your best advice for a 15-year-old entrepreneur starting as a dating and self-development coach? And I was reading that question and I was like, wait, you're 15 years old and you're coaching people on dating and so have you had a girlfriend yet? Like, how many dates have you been on? But then, and so many crazy questions, like how to make money from scratch, how to make more and do less. Like, so I've really appreciated this conversation and where it's went, and it, especially you being one of my mentors and one of my coaches, it's helped me have a lot of new respect from you and understand, because I never knew that, obviously, about, and if you look at somebody and be like, oh shit, you like, sometimes I think to myself, like, you know what, when I cuss and stuff, and people come and judge me and they're like, John, you're a foul person, or you're a vulgar person, or a hateful person, because I'm like, hey, fuck you guys. And I'm like, you know what, have you had some fucking 6'4", 350-pound father beat your ass every single day for no reason other than he was unhappy? Like, fuck you. Who are you to tell me that I'm upset or angry about something? Who the fuck are you to know anything about me because you saw me on social media for 7 minutes or something? So this has been really good. It's been really, really
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. I mean, I appreciate you sharing too. And like, it's funny because when you first asked that question, see, I've had people ask me that question, but they're not actually interested in who I really am. They want a political answer. And so that's kind of where I started. And I just wanted to see like what you were going to say and what your facial expression was. But I could tell you were kind of like, which was, I was like, okay, I think he really wants to know. So,
well, I'm mostly trying to figure out who I am. So I think, you know, if somebody else can know who they are, maybe I can figure out, because I'm in the same boat as you. That's what I was telling my guys today. Like, I'm really just, it's a powerful thing. You know, we were talking about this, like this mindset. And that's why I was telling my engineers today, like literally every person out there, like that I come in contact with, I control your lives. Like, I control you. You are me. Like, I can come over and I can get in your bubble and I can influence you. I can change your mood if I want to. I mean, I can just say, fuck. I can go into a Baptist church right now and be like, fuck all you crazy motherfuckers, hail Satan. And I just changed everybody's mood, right? I just influenced everybody. So this has been insightful. I'm really glad we got to do this. I don't have much more time, but I know we can go to my mentor lab, right? And that's still open where we can actually get in. And that's essentially, I mean, everything's recorded. There's an awesome private group that we have to basically get help from you. We get help from Colton. We get help from JR. And then we have calls every week where basically you talk to us about different stuff that you need, that we need to know. But then what I really like is you give us the opportunity for the hot seats where you're just like, you know what, you need to know about funnels or don't, I don't know, but what do you need to know about? Get out there, and it's just like live on demand help, and that I really love that. So we got my mentor lab that people can get in for help, and then you have your elite one-on-one platinum program. I think I'm gonna be signing up for that and get some help on yours. I won't have to dance for that, right? You were just joking me when I said that.
Yeah.
You said I had to dance.
Yeah, no. Yeah, man. We can talk about it for sure. But yeah, you'd be a good fit.
So last thing, you're I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but you are launching some software. You still have anybody available that they can get into the beta program for that? Are you still looking for people, or how's that going?
Yeah, so I am, so we're launching a software called Mentorship. There's actually another software platform that we haven't announced, but we're running a small beta on it called Mentor Genius. So we're calling it the Genius platform. So those are two that I'm launching this year, and I really wanted to focus on trying to get back into software. I've shied away from it for years, for over a decade almost, because man, software can really spider out of control. And like when I see I love ClickFunnels, I love Russell, I love that group, but man, when I see what they're doing, I'm like, dude, I would never do that again. Like, these guys are working crazy hours and traveling everywhere, and you know, and I think, you know, it's going to be worth it for them, but when all said and done, for sure, like it was worth it for me. But I was like, one and done on that thing. You know, like, you don't have to work that hard in software or build that big of a company to have a lot of impact or to make, you know, to reach a bunch of people. So I've really found a way to build a more scalable, like viral type of product that just delivers tremendous value to people. So, but yeah, so if anybody's interested in any of those, they can just PM me and I can give them the details.
You know when you're going to release it to the whole world? You have any
they'll both release this year. Yeah, the Mentor Rocket is being published on the App Store right now. So both of them have been published on both platforms. So I would say Android will be up in about a week, and then iOS, you know, it takes like a month or something for it's just Apple, right? But yeah, so, but they'll be on the App Store, and we'll start with like a scaled down version so that like a couple flows work really well. And then every week we're going to be pushing updates, you know, to it. So yeah.
I think that's the best products myself. Like, I'm sold on info products and software. Like, to me, that's if you want to get into business and you want to sell something, to me, like there's two things that you could really sell that are going to be the best things that you can sell. And that's info products and software, especially if you can put them together and wrap them together, because they're the only real things that you create once and like your throughput, like I come from a manufacturing background and lean philosophy. So like your throughput, the actual work of doing something, that gets packaged up, and then that throughput just keeps making money over and over and over again. And your throughput that's coming out now is creating future streams of revenue, versus if you want to offer a service or have a restaurant, your throughput is, once you acquire the client and you get that client, you got to spend some amount of time and throughput for that client acquisition. And once you acquire that client, then you have a bunch more throughput that you have to output in order to service them and give them whatever it is that they just paid for. And info products and software products are the only things that aren't really like that. Like once you acquire the client and then they give you the money, you just basically have to give them the info or the logins to the software. So
So that's the best model is where the fulfillment is very is pretty much automated, and that's what I didn't like about ClickFunnels. I did some kind of lightweight consulting for them and have helped them anytime they've asked me for executive advice, and even tried to help them get in with Salesforce and some of the places they're trying to sell to and stuff. And that information is public, so I can share it. But the problem is with that kind of software is support. And so, the things that crush a software company is support and development costs. I mean, so if you can make something that you don't have to always be having a ridiculous development budget for, and, and then if there can be no support or limited support or self-serve support, that's the model that I've been searching for. And there's definitely a lot out there. There's a lot of niches out there. The one we have is it's going to be really cool. Like I think every big influencer, well, I know for sure every big influencer who I have mentioned this to, they're all like, I'm on 100%. When it goes, I'm in. I'll put my whole list on there. 100,000, 400,000 people. We'll put everyone on it. Like it's, but yeah, but that's the best model in software. I mean, I see people like, oh yeah, I want to, build this like 400 person agency or 400 person software company. And I'm like, good luck with that. Like, and not that they won't succeed, not that I'm being narcissistic, but I'm just saying like, man, that's a hard life, and you can make the same amount of money, maybe more, by working a lot less. And I'm not saying like, don't work. I'm just saying like you'll stress yourself out, doing that. And so anyway, and by the way, when I just want to make sure everyone's clear, when I say don't work, for me, it's not that I'm not going to like go work. It just gives me more freedom of what I want to work on is really what it is, so.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard growing a company for sure. It's hard managing people. It's really hard managing people. It's like, I got 35, 36 people that work for me. And I have the same ambition, 400, 1,000, a couple 100,000 until it's everybody in the world. But I just can't imagine like it just as you get more and more people to be able to actually manage those people and deal with those people. So yes, good luck, because it's a pain in the ass, and it's a lot of work, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah. So like if somebody's never done it, it's kind of worth the experience, and it does. And I will tell you this, it gives you a lot of credibility. When people realize that I had trained 12,000 B2B reps, I had 18 regional managers. Like when people realized like I had signed every major cell phone carrier, like it went a long way, especially being young, especially being in my 20s. And like it opened, like our Telenav IPO did not go the way we thought. I mean, I had a house picked out in Malibu, like right on the beach. I thought I literally thought I was never going to work again, or just go do some philanthropy type of stuff, right? But then there's this thing called Google Maps that that we were the first version of Google Maps, and they basically crushed us because they gave it away for free, whereas we were charging. So like we had a good IPO, but it wasn't what we thought. And so it just like it made me like, so even though the IPO didn't go as well, I I had people tell me, they were like, let me just put it to you this way, James. Doing that and building that big company and working that hard, you will always have a gig somewhere just based on that past. Not very many people can do that. And that's the same with you, you know what I mean? And same with, with all Russell's key leaders. And like, even if they don't sell the company, even if it folded, which I don't think it will, but like the fact that they made that run will have residual effects for the rest of their life, you know?
For sure. Not a lot of people are wanting to make the run again. We talked about this a little bit. A lot of people, they want the trophy for the marathon and they want their picture taken at the end of the marathon, but they don't actually want to run the fucking marathon in there. And then they're just like, the marathon starts, they're like, well, I don't want to run that. But then they're still thinking, well, I wish. No, you don't. You really, if you really wanted that, you would have fucking been out there running and, really kicking everybody else in the ankle while you're running. If you don't want to run, then, get there before everybody else does, step on their feet, kick their ankle, and then just walk the marathon. But it's different for sure. So it's not for everybody. Look, I got to go though. This has been awesome. This has been really, really awesome, James. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad. I'm really glad that I found you on the internet and that I got into my mentor lab. So there's a link. I know you put a link in the comments. I'll put a link up here in the description as well since it's open. I thought it was closed myself, but I would really recommend it. It's something that I've been in for, I don't know, like 2-3 months now, and it's I don't want to say it's cheap, because that sounds wrong, but it's not really expensive at all. I mean, considering that what you get and the information that you get, it's not expensive at all. So it's.
Yep.
I know myself personally, I've got at least 100 times the value of what I've paid in so far. So I'm totally happy with that, and I'm glad you came and did this interview with me and spoke about the stuff. Like I said, I just want to really thank you again for some of the stuff you talked about. It means a lot to me to see you speak about it, and not just to hear you speak about it, but just see the demeanor that you're able to talk about that. And I think that's the best takeaway everybody can take away is just whatever fucking problem that you have, it's real small considering somebody else's. So just keep that in your mind. Like, your problem doesn't mean anything. And the only reason it means something is because that's what you're putting in your own head, is that this is a problem.
Yeah. And, what's really cool and ironic about this is it took someone like you with your background to ask me a real enough damn question. And cause I was on 2 podcasts yesterday. We do a lot of podcasts. And the reason I booked this personally with you is because the next time I looked at the calendar was like in August or something like that. Cause we have a podcast, like Calendly link, and it like books out for a long time. And so what I'm saying is all the podcasts that I do, most of the time, and this isn't a knock on anybody, but it's like, they're trying to fit things within to how they have developed their theme. And so it's a little bit more of like, hey man, just kind of like play the politics of like, well, what I'm going to ask you. And, if you got too real, it might scare some of my audience away. And, but it took someone like you with your background because I think this was by far the most meaningful podcast I've ever done, ever.
That's awesome. I'm social proof in that right there. Social proof is going right there. Snipping that out. It's going right over there on the page.
Seriously. So yeah, man, thanks for being real and asking good questions, man.
It has been great. So I would encourage anybody, if you need some help in your business and you're looking for, again, that's one of I think that's one of the biggest things of my mentor lab. It's not just the coaching and the help. It's just being there with a bunch of other people who are also looking for that thing. Sometimes even I'm sitting there halfway paying attention because you're helping somebody else with their problem. And I'm like, well, that's not really my problem, so I don't really care about that. But just listening to that get solved helps me figure out the thing that I'm trying to solve right now, because it gives you power. Like, okay, well, that was solved, so my thing's also solvable. So I got to go solve my marriage right now, or I'm going to be getting a divorce, because literally it's my birthday, and my wife was like, you saw her, she came in and gave me a kiss, and she was looking at me. She's like, John, it's our birthday. We have the same birthday, so she took my birthday.
Awesome.
But this has been great. I'm gonna go home and spend some time with my wife on my birthday. I really appreciate this, James.
Awesome, man. Have fun. Happy birthday, bro.
Thank you, sir. Hey, have a good one, man.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.